Hi, it's Professor Christina here, and today we're going to explore what exactly is a marketing campaign. It's a term that you hear a lot, but what is it exactly? Well, today we're going to explore what exactly goes into a marketing campaign. So let's start by understanding what a marketing campaign is. It's a term, like I said, that you're going to hear a lot. So let's define it first. So, a marketing campaign is a meticulously crafted, ongoing, deliberate project that integrates a range of different promotional tactics and marketing channels to effectively communicate a brand's message, engage a targeted or specific audience, and achieve specific business objectives like increasing market share or enhancing customer loyalty. In other words, it's an ongoing project where you focus on a particular type or group of customers and you push a message using a range of different tactics, a range of different strategies, like posting to social media, doing an ad campaign, maybe mailing a postcard, doing posters at bus stops. It doesn't matter exactly what specifically you're doing, but it's a bunch of different activities all designed to meet a single goal related to growing a business, and usually it's focused on one particular group of potential customers. A brand can have a lot of different customer types, but in a marketing campaign, oftentimes you'll focus on just one particular type of customer, like your biggest customers, or the ones who spend the most money, or the ones who maybe haven't heard of you yet, so that you can tailor what you're saying to particularly address the needs of that group of customers. So what are some of the things that go into a marketing campaign? Well, as I mentioned before, it's really important to engage in audience segmentation. That is deciding who the customers are that you want to reach with your marketing campaign. This is really important because think of, for instance, a store that you've never heard of and they sell great sneakers. But your best friend, on the other hand, has been going to that store since they were in high school and they say, oh, you have to check it out. Now, if he goes into the store regularly, they know what kinds of sneakers he likes to buy. Maybe the people who work there know him, and he's probably on their mailing list, and he gets coupons based off of what he's purchased in the past. That wouldn't work for you because you don't know them and they don't know you. If they sent you a coupon saying, hey, here's a discount for sneakers like the ones you bought last year, that would be annoying or confusing because you never bought anything from them last year. So you need to find out what this store is even about. So a message to you might have to explain what's so great about this store, and it might come from your friend and it might come from the store itself. But that's an example of audience segmentation. It's an example of how different customers, in this case regular customers versus those who have never been in your store, will need to hear completely different messages in order to understand them and see value in what you bring to the table. Once you do that, it becomes a lot easier to communicate with your potential customers and appeal to them. And the other thing that's important in a marketing campaign is you need to have SMART goals. In other words, and you've probably heard of SMART goals a lot, they have to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So usually when you do a campaign, like I said before, it is a focused project, which means like any project, it has a beginning and an end, and it needs to have some goals as to what are we doing during this project. So, what are some goals and objectives that you can have for a marketing campaign? Well, first and foremost, why do you want those goals? So you want to define the goals for the marketing campaign in a way that makes sense for the business. So if the business is losing customers, a goal would be to keep the customers you have or attract new ones. If a business is brand new, the goal can be attracting new customers, but also just introducing it to the market, making sure people have heard about it. So when you set goals for a marketing campaign, it's super important to know the status of the business. Has it been around for a long time? Is it brand new? So that then you can set goals that actually make sense for the business itself. You also have to have some way of measuring, have you achieved those goals? So it's one thing to say, I have a new business and I want to introduce it to as many new people as possible. Or I make videos and I take pictures for businesses and I want more businesses to have heard of me and consider hiring my services. But what does that actually look like in real life? Do you want to have 5 more customers? Do you want to have 10 more customers? So you want to set a specific goal as to how many new customers you want, or how many people you want to have heard of your business. Like if you do a survey before and after the campaign, how many more people will say, yeah, I've heard of that business. Those are goals and you want to set them. And then you also want to bear in mind is that most businesses don't have limitless amounts of money or time. Big companies like Coca-Cola or Nike can spend tens of millions of dollars on marketing themselves, but a smaller business might only have a couple of $100 or a couple of $1,000 a month to spend. So it's really important to think about resource optimization. What is the smartest way to spend my advertising budget? Is it a billboard by the side of the road that thousands of people see every hour? Well, maybe not all of those people are your potential customers. Maybe it makes more sense to put up flyers in places where your regular customers go. For instance, let's say you are a restaurant near a college campus. You wouldn't want to have a billboard hundreds of miles away because people aren't going to come into your restaurant from hundreds of miles away. So that would not be a good use of your resources. Putting up flyers near the campus, on the other hand, would be a great use of your resources. So now that we know what a marketing campaign is, and again, it's a focused project designed to achieve a particular goal for getting customers or keeping customers, focused on a particular subset or segment of your audience, of your potential customers, let's talk about the different types of marketing campaigns. So usually nowadays, almost all campaigns are digital marketing campaigns, or at least partially digital marketing campaigns. In other words, they take place online. Now, there's a lot of different ways of promoting a business online. You can do it on social media, on your own social media, or through influencers. You can send out emails. You can send out texts. You can put up a website and hope people find it on Google. You can run ads on the internet, either on particular publications or websites where you know that your customers are going to be, or ads that come up when people Google for something or search for something online. So there's lots of different what we call channels. And a channel is just a particular place where you can reach your customers, like a billboard or Discord server or an ad that shows up on Google. It's just a particular, very specific way of reaching your customers in a particular place and time. So the first thing you want to do is what's called target audience analysis. So this is when you do thorough research on your target audience's demographics, like where they live, how old they are, how much money they make, what their preferences are, and what is their online behavior. Where do they hang out online? Let's say you are starting a new video game company. You know that your target audience is gamers, but maybe you want to define it further. It's gamers who are in college. So you know their demographics are that they are college age. And then you think about what are their preferences and their online behavior. Are there particular Twitch streamers that they follow who play games similar to yours? Then that's a type of online behavior that's going to turn into how you're going to reach your audience. Think about what your particular customers that you want to reach like to do online. The world is filled with all kinds of different people doing all kinds of different stuff online. So think about in particular what your ideal customer, the customers you want, are doing online. Then we start identifying the different channels where we can find our customers. But we want to do this in a smart way. That smart way has a name in marketing, and it's called multi-channel integration. This is when you think about all of the different places where your customers hang out online. For instance, do they follow particular Twitch streamers? Do they follow particular Instagram influencers? Do they like to get texts with coupons? And we think about how are we going to reach them on all of those channels at once. And this is important because you want to make sure that your messaging is consistent from one channel to another. Let's say, for example, you go back to that sneaker store that your friend told you all about, and you sign up for their newsletter and their texts at the cash register because they tell you you're going to get a 20% off discount. But the next day you get a discount for buy one, get one free in your texts. And then 2 days later, you see an ad on Instagram for that same sneaker store, but now they're offering 25% off. You're going to be kind of annoyed. You might even just be confused and annoyed if every time you see any materials from that sneaker store, whether it's an Instagram post or something in your inbox, it's got different colors, it's got a totally different design, and you don't know what their aesthetic is. That's what we mean about a cohesive strategy and multi-channel integration. You want to make sure your message is the same everywhere, and so is your aesthetic. Now, we have a special name for aesthetics in marketing. We call it brand. You want to make sure that the colors, the fonts, the design aesthetic that you use are pretty similar within the same campaign so that people immediately recognize it and you don't look like a mess. You want to make sure that you look like you have it all together. And part of that is having a consistent aesthetic that people start to recognize it. They say, wow, that's from that sneaker store. I recognize those colors. And that makes you look important. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to use data. So you can guess, for instance, that your ideal customers follow a particular Twitch streamer, but the best thing is to actually know that for sure. And that's where data comes in. Today's marketers have access to a huge amount of data, which is just information, often with numbers attached. So you can see, for instance, how many people opened your last email that you sent out with a discount, and you can compare that to all of the other emails you sent out and look for patterns, like is it better to send stuff in the morning or the afternoon? You can get data on how people are finding you online. Did they find you by searching on Instagram? Did they find you by searching on the web? And then you can find out where customers are finding you. You can even find out which pages on your website they're going to the most. And that will tell you what they're most interested in. So for instance, let's say you're the sneaker store and you have a bunch of high top sneakers and you have a bunch of low sneakers. You can actually find out which sneakers people are looking at the most by looking at your data. And that's super valuable information that gives you a competitive edge. Now, we talked a little about aesthetics. So let's wrap up by thinking about the importance of visuals in marketing. So it's really important to have a great aesthetic appeal with well-chosen visuals. We talked about how it's important for it to be consistent. Using the same aesthetic throughout a campaign is super important. Gives you that competitive edge, makes you look like an important brand. But did you know that 90% of the information that our brains process is visual? That is what we remember. That's what your customers are going to remember. So make sure you think a lot about the visuals and the aesthetic for a campaign because it's going to make your campaign more memorable. You want it to be consistent, but you also want it to be emotional. You want to have aesthetics that really build an emotional connection with your customer. Oftentimes it's better to have pictures or video of people rather than things, for instance, because that's what really builds that emotional appeal. But whenever you think about those visuals and that aesthetic, also think about what appeals to your customers. You've now identified your customers in terms of where they hang out online, what types of influencers they follow, and you can start to think about what's going to appeal to them. You can also look at what your competition is doing and think about what parts of their aesthetic you want to imitate because that's what customers expect, and how you can be different and stand out. And that comes down to doing competitive analysis as well as an audience analysis, looking at what your audience really values. And that all starts with data as well. So this has been part one of what is a marketing campaign. We've talked about what a marketing campaign is. We've talked about the importance of audience segmentation and goals in creating a marketing campaign. We've talked about the importance of aesthetic and visuals and consistency in creating a successful marketing campaign. In part two, we're going to break down the different styles of marketing campaign from traditional to social and think about which ones work in which situations, again, to win more customers and get a competitive edge. So thank you for listening. This was Professor Christina.